really, really hot. And the next day I went to the doctor to get a COVID test and found out that I had contracted COVID. And so, you know, I camped out in the basement and, you know, got my scriptures like I normally would do and trust God and confess my scriptures, confess my healing, and did everything that I would normally do. Only this time it was just a little different. I was actually in a fight. In fact, the fight became great. I discovered that I had micro blood clots around my lungs, and they were closing in. My oxygen level had dropped so low that I should have been to the hospital. And we contacted our doctor, and they sent protocols out, and they you know, they were taking care of me. But it started getting worse. I had really one bad night where, you know, the breathing was a little challenging, but I can remember it was one night and God removed that. But I noticed that I was losing a lot of weight because part of it was I just wasn't eating because I was fighting this COVID. My hair began to fall out. And just mentally, I was trying to grasp, you know, just reality versus, I just felt a little discombobulated in most of those days. And I got down to 159 pounds. You know, I had very weird things happen. Like I felt like I saw things in the spirit that were rejoicing, that I heard one of them say, "Hey, we finally got him," you know. And I came to a point in that battle where, you know, I saw this quiet space, and on the other side there was like a curtain, and I wasn't allowed to look behind the curtain until I decided whether or not I wanted to go. And I thought I was like ready to go, and I was like gonna make the decision to go, and God said, "It took me 40 years to get you where I want you, and now you're there." And I'm like, "What, 40 years? And I said, "I'm here?" And he said, "Yeah, you're here." And I asked what it was. He said, "I finally got you delivered from people. And I now know that you'll do all the things that I will instruct you to do." And I kind of decided, well, wait a minute, you know, it took you all this time to do it. I wanna stay. And the Lord said to me, he says, "It's not hard to pass over. All you have to do is make a decision, and you're there." When my oxygen level dropped, fear started knocking on the door. You're gonna die. And I knew enough about fear not to sit there and listen to it. So I had to get my scriptures out and started dealing with the fear first. And once I dealt with the fear and my faith began to rise, I knew we were gonna get out. I knew we were gonna come out of it. So it was a matter of being patient or remaining the same, on standing on God's word and staying free from fear, standing on God's word and staying free from fear. And I think that's something that goes on throughout any process. It's not saying something one time like it's a magic trick. It's getting your focus, and I think that's the key, is focusing in on what you believe and not focusing in on what you don't believe, because the thing you focus on the most, that's what you're going to be more sensitive to. And the thing you focus on the less, you're going to harden your heart against it. So I was literally trying to harden my heart against fear and becoming very sensitive to the things of God. So I really had faith in what I was doing, that it was going to work, and that God would take care of me at nighttime and wake me up in the morning. I learned little by little, and I think that's how God works. We look for God to just pour things down all at one time. We're looking for the big blessing, pour it down. But mine was little by little and step by step. And actually I feel like I'm in better shape now than I've ever been in my life. No sooner than we're out of that, I had a bout with the shingles. And I thought, you know, what is this? The perfect pattern from my spine across my chest, and the shingles, the boils, the pain was the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced. But I did question God, like, what's happening? Have I angered you, you know? And so I asked God, why'd you allow this to happen to me? I'm like, you know, I thought I was your man. You know, what's going on, you know? And at that point, I knew in my spirit I needed to understand what it meant for God's grace to be sufficient for me. I know what Paul said, but what does it mean for God's grace to be sufficient for me? And then finally, you know, no sooner than that was over with, I discovered I had cancer, and I had 3 tumors in my body. And it was still standing in faith, but going to get treatment, and getting treatment like, 2 or 3 times a week. And this is what really hit me. After the treatment, everything looked great. It looked like we had it together. It all reversed. And only in 1 week's time, the numbers were worse than they were before. And I lost it. I broke down in tears in front of my youngest daughter, and Taffy, you know, she came and assured me, you've done all you need to do, all you know to do. You didn't do anything wrong, because she knows that that's what the enemy will say to you. You did something wrong. And she says, but you know what you have to do now. And I knew it was time for me to get a medical procedure. And we got the medical procedure. All the tumors were gotten both inside and out, and I'm healed. And at that point, God was like, okay, you know, what have you learned? And I learned so much. God definitely gets the glory out of the fact of I had 3 tumors in my body, and they're not there anymore. And I'm healthy. And not only am I healthy, but I'm inspired to evaluate the wisdom that I got out of it. The wisdom I got out of it was, I said I depended on God, but I would take 80 supplements a day. I found out later that, you know, taking so many supplements might have actually had something to do with the situation. So I learned how to really truly depend on God. And out of that it's one thing to say I depend on God, it's another thing to walk a walk of depending on God. The glory that God gets out of it is that I learned the importance of understanding that His grace is sufficient, His grace is enough, and in that grace, there's wisdom, knowing what to do. No, all sickness does not glorify God. And I don't believe that God makes you sick or puts sicknesses on you. I just don't believe that. But if the sickness does come on you, God can get the glory when it leaves. And God gets the glory from all the things that He led you to do, not to be a part of it. I don't want people to ever think that I'm saying God makes you sick. And no, He doesn't. I don't think there's sick angels in heaven, and I don't think God's making anybody sick. But what I think God is doing is training us to understand that in our weakness, He's still strong. Regardless of how it got there, when I'm weak, He's strong. When I was sick, He was strong. And so I came out with a greater dependence on God than ever before, because I saw, like Paul said, now I know that when I'm weak, He is strong. My healing wasn't something I deserved in the first place. It was something that was gifted to me through the grace of God. I wanted to see the treatments work, and I wanted the treatments to become the cure. And it it was treating it, but still didn't cure it. And I know what everybody says about treatment, well, you shouldn't expect that, but I wanted it to be the cure. I wanted to go in one day and the tumors are gone, the cancer's gone, no detection, but the treatments were just what they were. They were treatments. And while they kept me feeling good, and the disappointment came when we reached a certain point in treatment and the numbers started going down, and I thought we were there. And then we gave it a week off, and in just 1 week, it jumped right back to the same place it was before we started the treatment. I thought God let me down. I thought, are you, you want me to die? I mean, come on. I mean, I had a breakdown. It's like, I don't understand. I've been diligent about this. I've been trusting you. I'm not going to stop trusting you, even though it happened, but I did feel like I'm at the end of the rope. And I need to go ahead and accept that, I'm not going to get out of this. And that's called panic. And panic is groundless fear. And I begin to panic. And yeah, me, the man of faith. Yeah, me, the pastor. Because I felt like I had done all I know to do. I felt like my faith had failed. I know now today it didn't. But then it was 30 minutes of hopelessness that set in. It came in heavy. And I had a full-blown human moment. And something happened after that. After I had that moment, it's like, I'm never leaving Jesus. I'm never doubting or wondering. It's just something I don't know right now. It's something I might not see right now, something I don't understand, but he got me. He always has. And then I just started going back. I said, he had me here when I had meningitis. He had me here when I had cancer the first time. He had me here, during the shingles. He had me here through all that. God had my healing taken care of 12 years ago. A man, a doctor friend of mine who was a part of my first cancer treatment. We had kept in touch over all those years, and he had been training in a new procedure, something that a lot of people don't even know about, and had become somewhat of an expert in the field on that. And God had that thing already set up. His grace was sufficient. When you've done all you know to do, that's when you go to God, because maybe you didn't know enough, and He knows more. The treatment was amazing. The doctor was amazing. They shut everything down. They had no other patients to come in that day. They were all there. The entire staff was there to serve me. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, there are 1,000 things that could have went to the left. I mean, within like one little dot. When I came up out of anesthesia, I had been in a 4-hour operation. Did the thought come across my mind, this is Satan's opportunity to just wipe you out? Or something's going to go wrong with the procedure? And then I just made my peace. I trust God. There's no need of me going in this thing like this. I trust you, God. I trust you. Whatever, I trust you. And I was able to lie down with peace and trust that this journey would go the way it needed to go. And I spent Christmas recovering. I shot a movie before the operation and one after. And I was like, trusting God. And I'm sharing this testimony because I want people to know it happened to a grace man, a faith man, somebody that's been teaching the word for 40 years. And God's grace was sufficient. I'm here. And now that I feel like this other chance at life, I want to live it. And a lot of people have life, but they don't know how to live it. I wanted to share it because it's real. Fear is real. And every situation, it showed up first, ready to just chop on whatever I would yield to it. But the glory of this all is that we sing this song, The Greatest Power of All. I was confronted with the greatest power of all. I'm telling you, the greatest power of all, God's mighty grace and love. And it got better, and it got better, and I just want people to know it's gonna get better. But when you encounter Jesus, you encounter the greatest power of all. And I want people to understand that those 3 years, and that was another thing. You know, we're used to going through things 2 days and it's over. It was a 3-year period of one thing after another thing after another thing. And I can finally say in my lifetime that Jesus delivered me from it all. And so, yeah, what I would have to say to people is that God's real. His wisdom is available, and His grace is sufficient.